to the NRL, your favorite topic.
Ooh.
No, but this is interesting. So
No, it is interesting.
We watched a bit of the footy this year, and what was that accent? Anyway,
I don't know. Maybe that's just your brain not computing that your team is actually winning.
Oh, the Broncos.
I had to give it to him, guys.
This year we're going to win it.
I had to give it to him.
But anyway, let's talk about the footy. There has effectively been this year a lot of unrest between the players and the NRL, right? There's a new collective bargaining agreement. Like we've kind of talked about this, but there's basically things that they want, which they want some of the, not too dissimilar to the Hollywood writers' strike. If you want to simplify it,
unionize there, basically, right? Yeah,
effectively. However, unlike and we were having a chat like this, strikes in Australia versus strikes in America. let's just band-aid it there, right?
Yeah.
So the big bad rule set is America. If we're really unhappy, you're going to hear it. We're going let's protest, all that sort of stuff. Which is not that it's not happening. It doesn't happen
NBA,
here.
right? NBA is the example.
So the NBA has had multitude of strikes. They've had years that, you've had like a whole season, taken away back in the 90s or well before our time. And they're not shy about it when they want to do it because they know people love their sports, and so did Australia. So if you're following the NRL and you're maybe not into it, let's just say you're a casual fan, which a lot of people, myself including, I'd call myself a casual fan of the NRL. Up until this point, you probably have heard about unrest between the players union and the NRL, but for all intents and purposes, nothing, right? Really?
Yeah. What are they actually fighting about?
So a multitude of things, but it's not only the NRL players, but the whole, let's just call it the grassroots, the Women's Rugby League. They're also asking for
and like the lower leagues and stuff like that?
Yeah, like a multitude of things.
Yeah.
Right now, where it's at least to my understanding, is they want a mediator to come and talk between the NRL and the ARU to hash it out. So I'm not too sure like if the union is the mediator. I'm not going to get into it specifically because I don't understand it, but that's where it's at now. However, the interesting thing is this is manifested in this round, the current round of the NRL, in every NRL team basically taping over the NRL logo while they're playing as well. So you would see this in this current round where every team, the NRL logo is just covered by a bandage or whatever you want to call it, which is a really interesting way of protesting because, again, if you tune in and you're not aware of these conversations, you think,
what's going on?
What the hell's happening here?
Yeah.
And the interesting thing is the commentators are aware of it, and they have brought it up in various, sections of the game. I mean, 80 minutes in a game, you've got to talk about something that you initially got to bring it up. But these individuals, the commentators, the referees have their badges there. So it's only the players versus basically the NRL that are pushing this here. And they've gone so far as to say that they're not wanting to talk to the media after the games, which is a big element of wanting to get to know about the sports stars, how the team went, etc., etc.
A lot of content there. Yeah,
wealth of content there, and especially if you have paid TV, that's people watch half an hour before the footy to hear the analysis, to hear the teams and the sports teams talk about it. And I think it's very interesting because you have a group of ex-players such as, Jonathan Thurston and all that, that are part of the commentary team that are effectively hired by the NRL, which arguably should be.
So not by Nine?
Well, nine NRL, like, I'm not saying...
like it's a co-joint type of thing. Yeah,
I'm not saying that, but effectively there's elements there that are connected there. So you think, again, being past players, that they have a stronger pull here. But again, I think what's just fascinating is to see how an Australian team strikes versus how a US team would strike. Because if, for example, the NRL players right now, it's a really passive way of striking, right?
Yeah.
Really passive way of striking.
Yeah.
If arguably you wanted to really impart your narrative, would you not...
Absenteeism.
Yeah. So that's the extreme end of it. So we'll talk about that. But would you not, in your...
you would say stuff.
Yeah, you'd constantly
use your platform to say something.
You'd constantly say stuff, and players have done stuff to that iteration, but it's basically not considered, not unified, and you would think that you would still do the interviews, but keep talking about it until people just can't get it out. Like why aren't they being listened to?
That's a good point.
If that makes sense, right? But again, you're right. To the extreme end, again, taking the NBA as an example, if you really want to get hurt, stop playing completely. But again, it's such an Australia cultural thing where I would assume that they wouldn't be getting paid as well, which these guys are not getting paid millions of dollars to the extent of some of these players.
Like they actually do need the money, right?
They do need the money.
They don't have that luxury of being able to...
They possibly don't have that luxury.
Yeah.
But also, I do think what really molds into it is it feels like... It's a weird thing to say, such an un-Australian thing to do.
Un-Australian.
It's un-Australian,
It's un-Australian, mate. What are you doing, mate?
But it's true, right? In this whole time, we've never seen any sports stars... I think that's why when, as a side example...
Yeah.
Who is a homegrown... Who is the quintessential Australian athlete? Let's just take any sport.
As of now or forever?
No, you can go back. You can go backwards if you want.
Well, my first immediate thought was like Ash Barty in recent times.
Yeah,
right?
Leighton Hewitt too. Leighton Hewitt. Why though? Why? Let's go with Hewitt
because they're battlers, right?
Yes, the battler, the underdog.
The underdog.
Australia, mate. And that's why when in Australia, in the Australian Open, when there were allegations of Novak Djokovic quitting and all that, it really struck a nerve everywhere. Yeah. But in Australia, that's like, you might as well not play the damn game, right? it really...
Get out of here. What are you talking about?
But Australians generally don't like that, right?
Yeah.
And that's why...
Because you're not giving it a red hot go.
Australians value the honesty and integrity of a player. That's a weird thing to say, but it is. And that is the reason. Unfortunately, a player like Kyrgios hasn't necessarily meshed in because they don't fit in their clean-cut mold, right? Yeah. Like that arrogance or that edge, which Americans love, by the way. They love that edge. Doesn't mold well with the Australian public. And I think you're seeing NRL players, an NRL game is not a flashy game. It is a blue-collar game, right? Like, it's not cricket. It's not clean-cut and everything.
It's not golf.
And it's definitely not golf. And they know the type of consumer that's watching them. So I think there's definitely an element there. And it's just fascinating to watch. Like, we're nearly towards the end of the season. With basically no end in sight. There's a grand final going to happen very soon.
September, right?
Yeah, September, October. One of those two. There is no better time to get... Like, if you play a whole entire season and you still have a bugbear, what leverage do you have with the NRL once the season is gone?
Well, because that's the thing, right? Because it's all about... I would have to assume they do have a plan. You would hope they have
to assume.
You hope that they have a plan, right? Yeah. Of... what is it that they're trying to achieve? What are they willing to do to get there? And then how do you turn up the dial if it's like, if our demands aren't met, then we will do this. So maybe that's what they're trying to do. And like you said, with the whole cultural relevance of footy being, Thursday night footy, Friday night footy, they play it on Saturday and Sunday as well, right? And sometimes on Monday, right? Yep. Like,
no more Monday, by the way.
Oh, no more Monday?
No, used to be.
Okay.
I think, yeah.
But it's this whole kind of sports unifies people in some way, and people look forward to the games, right? Yep. So there's that piece, and then there is the hard-earned living being earned through that with the players,
of course.
Because otherwise, what the stereotypically. What, chippies, tradies?
It's a working man's game.
Yeah.
It's a working man's game. Interesting. We'll see how it ends.